to see that evening sun go down. Lord, Lord, yeah, I hate to see that evening sun go down. It makes me wish I'd never seen this town.
To be an exile is simply to have left one's country and to be unable to return. Every exile is a different personal experience. Myself, I wanted to see the world and photograph it. That's 45 years I've been traveling. And I've never stayed anywhere more than 3 months. When I found no more to photograph, it was time to go. Said it was time to go. And this casts a light on today's book that I've chosen to bring to the channel. It's Exiles by Josef Koudelka. And this is my first book by Josef Koudelka. It's been an experience. There's a lot to talk about. And I've previously talked about Josef Koudelka here on the channel. I'm going to be leaving that link. And we talk about his career in more detail. And so as we discover his career and his photography, we learn photography with him. And today, I'm going to be focusing on this book, and just as a brief note, I wanted to talk about some important aspects that led to this book, I feel. So Josef Koudelka picked up photography in 1967, and it was a case, I think, of being at the right place at the right time. Those weren't fortunate circumstances. Basically, he was in Prague at the time that the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia happened. So those were unfortunate circumstances, but he happened to be at the right place and right time because those photos documented a historical event, a big historical event for his country, for the world, but also kind of like catapulted him towards a career because these photos were internationally renowned, and anonymously he was given awards, he was given other opportunities, but what happened was that due to, of course, the notoriety of these photos, there was a fear of reprisal for himself and his family. And so he began an exile in 1970. And that exile would last for, a greater part of his career, greater part of his life. And he remained stateless for about 17 years because he was neutralized as a French citizen in 1987. And so this book comprises of photos that fit in that period of time, but also talks about a bigger experience and many things that we can take from this book that we're going to see throughout this video. So sit back, relax, grab a drink, make yourself comfortable, and let's go straight to another video. And this book contains photos taken in many different countries, and we navigate between the mundane scenes of the everyday through celebrations, pilgrimage, observations, and this book is to me a great book for many reasons, but first and foremost because there's this lingering feeling of loneliness, being lost in new surroundings, the immersion in the discovery of new worlds, and as summarized in its introduction, this book oddly reflects on the unbearable lightness of being. So this leads me to the first lesson I take from this book, and that is that sometimes storytelling is nothing but the construction of a dominating feeling. And what is storytelling really? It can be so many things, and so many things can contribute to the telling of a story. And here we have to look at the concept of story not in a classical 3-act term, such as beginning, middle, or end. This story is one that started a long time ago with the first people that were ever forced in one way or another to leave their home countries, their homes. And this is a story that will prevail with the continuous wars, famine, pain, political reasons, amongst many other reasons that force people to leave their countries. In essence, what we see in this book is the experience of someone who is in exile, that while capturing his personal experience, he manages to capture a feeling that is bigger than himself. Some of the photos we see in this book are brilliant. Some others are good photos, but perhaps less powerful when standing on their own. But the idea that we have to take from here is that some of the photos in this body of work and some of the photos that might be on our bodies of work don't necessarily serve the purpose of being visual statements, don't necessarily gonna wow people, but will instead serve the purpose of the book, the storytelling, and the vision we're creating. In the introduction of this book, Czesław Miłosz writes, "There are too many new shapes, and they remain fluid because the principle of their order through routine cannot be discovered." And this is a key. I agree with this statement because to me what Josef Koudelka does in this body of work is to show us the world through the eyes of an exile. As an immigrant myself, I'm not exiled from my country of origin. It was simply the way life goes, and I had to find a better life and opportunities for myself. But in this quest, I can tell you that what I saw in this book hit close to home. Because these are photos that translate the idea that when you're a migrant or in exile or someone who had to start all over again at some point in time, you realize that you learn and see a life where nothing is forever and nothing is granted, which makes you more appreciative of your experience and what you see. So Exiles is to me a book where photography is the product of observation and sentiment working together. And Koudelka is very famous for not taking assignments. I really admire him. I travel a lot. I dedicate myself a lot to what I do. So I really admire his passion, his dedication to what he does. So much so that he knew the consequences of not having a home, kind of like roaming around, traveling, doing your thing, doing your photography, doing what you love. Because that means that, not taking assignments, not having a stable kind of income, a sort of stable home, a family, whatnot, you really miss out on things, but at the same time, you have a different vision of life. And I really, really respect Koudelka for that. And when he talks about this choice and he talks about his freedom, I feel like obviously he has a very unique perspective of freedom. Everyone's perspective of freedom is very unique. So for Koudelka, freedom has a different meaning. And when he talks about freedom, he very interesting talks about different types of freedom. The freedom to live, the freedom to self-expression, the freedom of discovery, the freedom of, time itself, the freedom of subject. And I think that's so beautiful. And we can take a lot from this, especially when we look at this book. So he knowingly dedicated himself into something that arose naturally. After all, quote, Exiles was not a story he was set out to cover, but instead something that organically came to be, that he approached with total freedom of expression and discovery. And in this perspective, I believe we can tell that Koudelka acted as his own guide, meaning he let his own intuition guide him, which is a lesson I take from this book, but also from an excerpt I read when someone asked him, how does he choose his subjects? And he replied, I know what I want to do and I do it. And I've created the conditions so I can do it. I want to keep the freedom not to do anything and the freedom to change everything. People ask me all the time why I photograph travelers. I've never known. I'm not particularly interested to know. I didn't grow up with American cinema like many photographers. I was from a little village. I was never fascinated by the United States, but I remember seeing photos of the Farm Security Administration. And they moved me very much. And it wasn't because of the style of photography, it was because of the subject. And here I think it's safe to say that, in other words, what Koudelka is trying to tell us is to photograph what strikes your eye, what appeals to you. So photograph for yourself, follow your gut, curiosity, and intuition. And I've heard this expression, I feel, pretty much all my life in different contexts. And to me, even though I'm quite young, I've only seen, I believe, a handful of things that really are the materialization of this concept, God is in the detail. And one of those things is, of course, the photography of Josef Koudelka. Because to me, his photography, or the details in his photography, is what elevates his work. As I go through this book, I noticed that I stopped quite a lot and admired the beauty in these details, such as in this photo taken in Ireland in 1971. This shot hides extremely beautiful details like the gaze of these women, the different directions they establish, their fists and hands, the humility in their expressions, the simplicity in the way they dress and present themselves. This is the kind of detail that to me personally sets his photography apart. In a world where everyone can be a photographer, This is to me what sets photographers apart from everyone else. This capacity to perceive detail and see beauty in the detail of an otherwise overlooked, mundane sight. So this teaches me that instead of looking, I should focus on seeing. And the difference here is more than semantic. To see presupposes that you pay more attention, you involve yourself more with the subject, the surroundings, and this is a simple yet powerful reminder I take from the photography of Josef Koudelka. And these have been my thoughts on Exiles, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to know more, links to Josef Koudelka will be down below. If you'd like to see more, perhaps another book of his, we can definitely do that. Just comment down below and give this video a like because it helps recommending it to more people. And I feel like more people should know about this book if they don't know already. And yeah, I guess that links to my work as well will be down below, to my print shop. If you'd like to support my work, support the channel, you can also become a member and have access to exclusive videos that I'm going to be doing monthly for that group. And yeah, I guess that it's all for today. So stay safe, keep shooting, keep creating. Check out this video right here, and I'm out. Peace.